Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I had to break down and actually make a video. After seeing the interaction today with Trump, JD Vance, and President Zelensky of Ukraine, I figured it's time to start. For those who haven't seen or don't know, today President Zelensky met with Donald Trump, President Trump, Vice President JD Vance, and the alleged plan, I believe, was to get Ukraine to sign a ceasefire agreement. Now, keep in mind, the ceasefire agreement had no security guarantees. And I just want to say real quick, too, that that's one of the most important things with any sort of agreement like this. There has to be some kind of guarantee of security because, as Ukraine has said many times and as history has shown many times, Russia has not upheld its agreements. I mean, and in this case, the United States hasn't upheld its agreements either. What I mean by that is the Abraham Accords. So just for a quick history lesson, when Ukraine agreed to hand over the nuclear weapons that it had at the end of the Soviet Union, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, we signed the Abraham Accords. And the Abraham Accords were a security guarantee that if Ukraine was ever invaded, that we would stand up and defend them. One of the justifications for why we haven't done that is that one of the signatories to the Abraham Accords was Russia. Russia had agreed to step in and defend Ukraine in the event that they were ever invaded. Since Russia is actually the one invading Ukraine, we basically threw the agreement out the window and said, well, you know, Russia's obviously not going to defend them because they're attacking them, and therefore we shouldn't necessarily have to either. And not because we shouldn't have to, but because it's just politically expedient to not get directly involved in a World War III confrontation with Russia. Ukraine has already agreed to hand over billions of dollars in mineral rights to help repay for the war. One more thing, too, I just want to point out that Trump's vision of this, just so people are clear on what his actual goals are, he thinks of this as a business transaction. And I want you to take all emotion out of it for a second, too, and just try to think to yourself, okay, like, shake it off. Hi, I'm the president of the most powerful country in the world. We have all the wealth, all the weapons, all the power. I have avoided all criminal prosecution all throughout my life. I've come back from bankruptcies. I am a billionaire. My best friend is Elon Musk, who's the richest man in the world. I am the most untouchable. I've been shot at. I survived. I'm the most untouchable, most powerful person who's ever existed on the face of the earth. Okay, so what I say goes. Now, what I say is, obviously, Ukraine's not going to win the war. That's pretty straightforward. Like, Ukraine on its own is not capable of winning the war, and it would take a significant investment of U.S. resources and NATO allies' resources in order to even turn the tides of the war to the point where we could push back and take the territory that's already been seized by Russia. So, and that would likely lead us down the path that we mentioned earlier, which is World War III. We don't necessarily want to go there. And obviously, if Russia started losing the war, there's the real risk of them using nuclear weapons to enforce it. And all these things aren't good. All these things aren't good. We don't want to go there. So let's just get this over with. All right, we'll take what we can get for now. We'll try to make a little money off it in the process, because why not profit off of problems that we solve? And we'll come back to this later. We'll just worry about it later. I'm the guy who has always just said, F it, we'll push it down the road. Okay. I push my court cases down the road. I push my bankruptcies down the road. I lied about my business sizes and property sizes for decades. And that got pushed down the road. I'm old enough that I'm going to die soon. And I really don't care. Like, you can't touch me. So yeah, we'll just kick it down the road. And you know what? If Russia reinvades after I'm out of office, I'll just blame Biden or whoever the next president is. I'll just be like, yeah, see, when I was president, I kept things together. I made peace. But those guys, they can't do shit. Yeah, it's pretty overplayed. So let's get to the video. And I know I've rambled a bit too much here, but let's cut this back because I want to show the whole thing.
States of America, and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hate?
I don't know what he means by aligned with the world here. It doesn't make any sense to me. Most of the world supports Ukraine, so saying that you're aligned with the world would imply that you're aligned with Ukraine, but you're not. So, and in reality, you're siding with Russia on almost every issue so far. So,
hatred he's got for Putin, it's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
The other side being Putin, the aggressor who invaded Ukraine. That guy, he's not super in love with Zelensky. You don't say. You don't say.
So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I can be tougher than any human being you've ever seen.
That's a little foreshadowing for you. I can be tougher than any human being you've ever seen.
Be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Wait, so if being so tough is not going to get you a deal that way, then you're saying being soft is going to get you a deal. Okay, if that's what you're saying.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country.
What are you saying? Talking tough. Biden sent $125 billion in aid. That's not just talk, that's walk. He sent weapons. He sent Javelin missiles. He sent HIMARS missile systems. Like, he got special approval to send weapon systems that could be used for offense that are satellite guided by U.S. troops in America. So Biden, just to reiterate here, sent money, sent weapons, and provided U.S. soldiers assistance to Ukraine. I don't know how any reasonable person could ever construe that to mean talk. Like, there is nothing about that is purely talk.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the...
You mean pandering to Putin? Okay, diplomacy? You're talking diplomacy. You're saying, you know what we need to do? We need to just talk it out, because clearly this whole war thing isn't working out, you know? Who invaded who and who's the dictator and who's the aggressor here? Those are really questions we should just not worry about, because we don't want to offend Putin. And we want to make a deal with Putin, you see, because we have business interests there. J.D. Vance and him, Donald Trump, personally have business interests there. So it's important to us to continue to grow our wealth. And also, yeah, like whoever the this guy is, Zadimir, whatever his name is. Yeah, he's just a issue. He's a small country. He doesn't matter. Got it.
Pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
What makes America? Well, first of all, let's define good. All right. Are we talking morally good or good in the sense that we are powerful and influential? Because if we're talking morally good, then no, there's nothing morally correct about having fake diplomacy with a leader who won't uphold his end of the bargain. It makes you stupid and weak. Okay. And if I were Putin, I wouldn't even be happy about it, because realistically, I would expect this kind of incompetence from you. It was the whole reason that I spent the last 5, 6, 7 years influencing American politics and with the vote system, was so that eventually I would end up with somebody like you, who's a stupid, mindless weasel who I can manipulate to do literally whatever I want. And right now, what I want is a reason to say I won this war. If I'm Vladimir Putin, I want to say I won this war. I want to have the opportunity to recuperate my troops and rebuild my munitions and tanks and stuff like that. Because if I just pull out and do that, then I look weak and I can't do that. So I need them to come to me begging to end this war. And thankfully, I have a couple apes here who will do that for me. And I want the opportunity to reinvade without any sort of issues. Okay. So I need you to sign an agreement that will not enforce any sort of security guarantees from the United States, because when I come back in, I don't want to have issues with you guys. Is that cool? Is it cool if we work together diplomacy style and then resolve this kind of independent of this little nation here called Ukraine, and then we profit off of it, and then we get everything we want and the Ukrainians die? Is that cool? This is JD's Vance. This is JD Vance's face as Putin says all that. Just
ask you.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
that is the stupidest thing that we're hitting step number one. This we haven't even gotten to the reason why I'm recording this video yet. That is number one. Okay, I cannot believe a U.S. president just tried to correct him like in a demeaning manner. Like Zelensky doesn't know the year his own country was invaded, where he was. Okay, like you don't know what you're talking about, and then makes a complete ass out of himself as everybody in the room corrects him.
So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
Well, you know, it's not a big deal because fuck all of you. I wasn't here. That's your way of protecting your ego. People do that shit all the time. You see people do that all the time. They'll come back with one more quip, you know, just to like get the last word in and feel better about themselves. So to see the most powerful man in the world act like a 15-year-old on Call of Duty is pretty pathetic.
Exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
Now, I love how Zelensky calls out JD Vance there, because that was clean. He's like, we signed a ceasefire agreement in 2014. We made prisoner exchange deals. We've tried diplomacy. We've tried this specific kind of diplomacy before. And every single time, Putin has reneged on those agreements.
Talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah.
At this point in the interview, they go into defense mode. Okay, JD Vance and Trump, they realize they're backed into a corner on this, and they start getting super hostile.
But if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now,
In front of the American media. What are you doing right now? You're literally, you keep looking at the cameras. You're litigating it in front of the American people. You are so hyper aware of how this is being perceived. I feel like you did this specifically for the showmanship. Like you wanted an opportunity to rile up your base and spread more lies while Zelensky sat there. And we're going to see a lot more of that here as we go forward because Jesus, I'm just going to let it play for a little bit, keep my mouth shut, let you enjoy this.
You guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems?
Okay, I have to stop again. You bring them on a propaganda tour. What you're doing right now is a propaganda tour. You've set up a whole room of cameras so that you can berate him with lies about what he does. Now, does he set them up on a propaganda tour? What does that really mean? That means, does the president of Ukraine set up a specific route in which they take foreign leaders and guide them through the city in a war zone? Yeah. Okay, obviously there's going to be a set route. Is there a set route every single time any world leader goes anywhere? Yeah, there is. Anytime you go visit another world leader, there's going to be like a cake cutting ceremony or like a hugging session in front of the camera. Like it's all a propaganda tour every time. So if you're saying like, does Zelensky show other leaders what awful shit is happening in their country? Yeah, he probably does. Okay. He probably takes them there and goes, look at all this destruction. Isn't this crazy? Can you help us? I mean, can you blame the guy? He's fighting for his own country's lives. People are dying actively by the hour. All right. And every one of those lives that is lost increases the longer we sit here and around.
Bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Okay, there's that word, dictate. You're in no position to dictate that. Once again, hinting at Zelensky's a dictator. All right. He chooses these words very carefully. I've noticed that with Trump. He hit a nerve last week. He knows it. And now he's going to try to keep poking at that nerve. And what he does is that's his strategy. He just picks at things, different things. And whenever something starts to bleed, he digs deeper. And then when there's no blood left, he moves on.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
This is what I'm talking about, just talking over him.
Right now, you don't
defense mode.
You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Now, when would you ever just say thank you? Like, what does that even mean? Have they said anything that is worthy of thanks? Like, was he supposed to come into this meeting and be like, oh, thank you? Thank you for the weapons. Thank you, Mr. President. Just lick that boot. Is that what you want? I know that's what you want because that's what you want from the entirety of the federal government right now is bootlickers. So not surprised at all. But once again, they're talking about nonsense, like World War III, really? You want World War III? He doesn't want World War III. He wants peace for his country. Once again, he wants security guarantees that his country will be protected this time for real in writing. Unlike the other times when, like the Abraham Accords, which we also signed, he wants more. He's willing. Actually, he's not even willing. He's forced to try to at least get more security guarantees from the United States, even though we already went back on our last deal of security guarantees with him. He has an obligation to his people to at least continue to attempt diplomacy. And what he's trying right now is to keep some form of security for his people. Okay. That's all he wants. He's fine with the ceasefire as long as there's security guarantees from the United States.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
And the president here who's trying to save your country. JD Vance is the perfect weasel. It's kind of incredible to watch. I wish he was a Fox News anchor and not the vice president of the United States, because the way he took over this meeting, he knew, one, it projects strength because a lot of people have been talking about Elon Musk a lot lately and how JD Vance hasn't been in the picture. So it gives JD Vance an opportunity to come in here and be like, I'm still a strong, powerful person. But realistically, have you ever seen a vice president of the United States speak to a foreign leader this way? Most of the time, if they're there at all, they're there quietly while the president speaks. But no, he's got to step in over Donald Trump, get the messaging back on point, and give Donald Trump something to hook onto, because Donald Trump is getting beat the shit out of right here.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in
Done a
big
lot of
trouble.
talking.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning.
Done a lot of listening.
You have a damn good chance of
We are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank-
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
Made up numbers.
And you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
So what about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak-
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
Isn't that horrible that he has to go, not in 2 weeks, in 3 days, because that's what Putin said. You know, yeah, I've heard this line from Putin before.
This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
It's not business. It's people's f***ing lives. But more importantly, in this video, I cannot believe the dressing down he's giving another world leader who's supposed to be on our side, who has tried nothing but being on our side for the last 10 years. Okay? Ever since they were invaded. Like, even before that, I mean, they signed the Abraham Accords with us back in 1991 or 1992. So to say that like they're an enemy somehow, or that they're not a friendly, while they literally fight and die on your behalf. I want to make that clear too, because one of the benefits, even if you're completely abstract about this entire situation and you think that you know, their lives don't matter, they're just some foreign people, like we need to put money in America first, all that stuff. You have to understand that from a military standpoint, the United States is gleaning a ton of information on how modern warfare plays out. Okay, we haven't had a modern warfare conflict. We haven't had a conflict with drones and jets and all this other stuff. Not since really the Iraq War. And that, I mean, Desert Storm was kind of a joke. Like, we steamrolled their country, and we steamrolled their country again in 2003. So I want to make clear here that we have spent the last 20, 30 years fighting insurgent warfares or wars around the world. And we've been dealing with guerrilla warfare, and we've been helping in Africa and all this other stuff. But we have not gone against a modern, strong military. And so we need information on how this plays out. Like, in what way what tactics work, what tactics don't, what strategies work, you know, whether certain techniques can hold the battlefield, what weapons work best, what troop movements work best. You know, we are using this in a sick way, but hey, bear with me. We are using this in a way to fight a proxy war in which our troops become stronger. When our troops go against somebody like China or Russia, we're going to be far better prepared for what we'll actually be facing given this information. And two, we get to bleed out one of the top 3 strongest countries in the world. All right? Russia, rather than amassing a military and more arms and stuff, is bleeding them out on the front of Ukraine. This benefits us. This weakens the Russian economy as they have to switch to a war economy and begin producing more war stuff instead of consumer goods and exports. They also suffer economically from sanctions. This has hurt Russia and set them back in a multitude of ways. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, Russia, being our adversary, being bled out is a good thing for the United States. This is an opportunity. They overextended themselves and allowed themselves to fall on their own faces. This is a pretty standard intelligence tactic. Like, if you can draw your enemy out, Sun Tzu's Art of War, I'm pretty sure, talks about this. If you can draw your enemy into overstepping, they're much easier to kill. Okay? And that's exactly what we've done. We've drawn Russia's military into a position where it's basically ineffective. They have no ability to defend their country on other borders, other than nuclear weapons, of course. They have no ability to invade other countries, and they've completely frozen and gridlocked the line in Ukraine. I mean, at this point, as long as we can keep casualties to a minimum in Ukraine, these people are fighting and dying for us. They're pursuing the goals and interests of America. And on top of that, we already got the minerals agreement, you know? And on top of that, it was all a loan to begin. Well, it's not all a loan, but it's mostly a loan to begin with. So in no way is the United States suffering from this. And in a lot of ways, it's benefiting. And to see a U.S. president rip in to the person who's actively leading the resistance against one of our enemies, while pandering to one of our enemies and pushing his goals forward, I just can't even believe we're living in real life right now. That's kind of what made me want to make this video, is I cannot fathom this scenario. But we'll get through it.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going.
Oh, I understand, sir. I understand. Yes, you do understand, because that's the whole reason you put this circus together. Like he said, like Zelensky said a minute ago, he said, you asked me to come in here and speak. That means that they wanted this circus. That's why JD keeps looking at the cameras. That's why Trump has to throw in this one last thing, because they wanted a reason to cut ties with Ukraine. And you notice that no matter what Zelensky has said, they've just kept escalating. They've created these weird scenarios with billions of dollars being donated and how he hasn't thanked them. And even beside that, you know, like, it's just Schopenhauer. It's all Schopenhauer through and through. The Art of Always Being Right is the name of the book. And these guys have clearly read it.
So long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I think it's The Art of Being Right.
You're
Sorry.
buried there. Your people are dying. You're
again,
running low on soldiers.
Don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire.
He didn't say that.
I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what
That wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with
a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
But this
That
is
was
your-
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president.
Once again, and Zelensky's about to say this himself, I believe, but Biden did not do the ceasefire agreement in 2014. I don't know what else I have to say.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
Is that the statement?
You got to be more thankful. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
The attitude, by the attitudes, he means Zelensky. Zelensky needs to lick the boot. You need to lick the boot, buddy. You need to thank him and then kiss his ass and then take what you can get. Because Trump, once again, putting myself back in his mindset, this guy, the only reason he exists is at the graces of me. So look, this video has gone on long enough. I appreciate it if you've listened this far. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And again, if you want to see more content like this, let me know. You can find this video in the description below, so make sure to go check that out. You can see the rest of it here. But I want to thank you for watching. And once again, have a great day.